Welcome back to Debate Amongst Friends for our second season. We just took a lot of time out between the last 7 episodes, which is, a very British season, as we determined. And so now we are coming back to bring you some more fresh takes, now with video! Woo! Exactly. But for today's episode, we have, a few topics that Duchess and I feel strongly about, not so strongly about, somewhere in between.
That's fair.
It's a lot of emotions up in the air. But, I kind of wanted to ask, should we make America Kanye again? I don't know. This whole Kanye coming out and supporting President Trump, one, I wasn't surprised because,
they're homies.
Exactly. And, they say real recognize real, or I guess in this case, crazy recognize crazy. I don't really know.
I'm sorry, I thought it was dragon energy.
Yes.
Recognize it's dragon energy.
They have dragon energy.
The man magnificent.
Yes. Which I just thought was hilarious. But if you ever go through and read Kanye's Twitter feed, it kind of has this very medicated and then lucid and then medicated and then lucid again feel to it. I don't really know how I feel about that. It's kind of weird. But the thing that kind of tripped me out the most was something that he said where he was like, basically he's a free thinker. He thinks for himself and he's tired of people trying to tell him how he should think about these things. And he just got slammed by everybody.
And his wife called.
Yes. And yeah, that was a thing that happened.
It's never good when the wives get involved.
No, it is not. Or moms, for that matter.
It's fair. It's fair.
But I don't know why Kanye, well, actually anybody, I guess I should say, any prominent black figure who wants to come out and go against the grain, why now all of a sudden they're crazy? Like, we weren't calling Kanye crazy when he was out doing crazy stuff. But apparently now he has lost his mind. That blew me. I was just like, how does that work?
That's what happens. It's just like Snap. That's what happens.
Apparently.
But we always do that. As long as someone agrees with us, we think they're perfectly whatever. And then the second they take 2 steps to the left, we're like, oh, she's crazy. Remember Britney Spears, who really was going crazy, and they let her back to the VMAs, and she, tanked that first performance. Remember Amanda Bynes? A few other people, we just keep giving these chances, and they keep bringing their crazy. Lindsay Lohan. I realize these people are black, but they were just like the best examples of people waking up on the wrong side of the bed and continuing their whole day on the wrong side of the bed.
And that's fair. That's fair. I guess with this, Kanye came out and said when he was running for, the 2020 elections for president.
Is he going to be old enough in 2020 to run for president? Is he like 40? 45? Somewhere in there?
I thought it was 38, but
I think that's for the Senate.
Yeah.
We'll get the fact checkers on that and, put it somewhere around, here, like everybody else on YouTube says.
Yeah.
Be like, maybe, or it'll be over there.
Or somewhere down here. Who knows?
It'll be somewhere.
Point is, I'm not sure if he will be old enough to run for president. Part of me wants him to run for president. The other part of me is kind of like, he doesn't really have a chance, so
why not? Did you think the guy from Celebrity Apprentice was going to be president?
Oh, the one who, owned it and created it? Like that guy?
I mean, but on the one hand, shouldn't we applaud that you saw what you perceived as a problem and you went about how to solve it?
I mean, look, that is, in a sense, the entrepreneurial spirit. See a need, feel a need.
Yes. And I know a lot of people don't like Trump, and I'm like Mike Tyson is a Bears fan on his cartoon. Like, today it could be cool, tomorrow it could be something else. I'm all kinds of fair weather about it. But one thing that I do find very interesting is I quite like Donald Trump, the father. Like, here you are, the kid of a multimillionaire and in college, and you get $150 a month in allowance. Like, you really taught your children the value of a dollar when they could have been running around recklessly buying gold toilets and $18 lattes. And all of them have gone to great business schools. No one bought any grades. You cannot say they haven't all taken what they watched him do, what they learned, and combined it. You know, you have Ivanka, who has the fashion line, and she, I feel like, hit a really good niche market of, if you're 30 and you have to go to work like you are somebody, but you can't, you know, look like you have booty for sale, but you're going to be cute. This was about the speed you needed. It wasn't ridiculously expensive. No. That is not what we sell at our offices. No. And the jewelry, and she had the higher end line and the lower end line. But I feel like these are the things that you're taught. And I think parents like him, Warren Buffett, even Bill Gates, do a very good job of teaching their children that and keeping their children grounded, for children who grow up with just access to all sorts of things. Because even the people who were friends with them in college were like, you think you're going out with a Trump? It's about to be this thing. No, we're about to pile in this Honda and go to this free concert down the street and have water.
Pretty much.
But I think that's such a great thing.
And I'll agree with that. Say what you will about his policies, say what you will about, you know, him as a husband. As a father, you can't really find that many things to criticize him about. And I feel like what a lot of people don't realize is that no one person is one-dimensional. There are many facets to everyone. And just because you don't like something about this one person does not mean that the whole person is bad. So,
well, and I think too, for the people who are like, Donald Trump is a bad husband, when you get married, at least when we did, there wasn't this book and it said, if you do this, this, and this, you're a good wife. If you don't do this, this, and this, you're a bad wife. And that. Different marriages work different ways. We've had friends who can't even live in the same state together, but they're still married and they still quite like each other on opposite ends of the United States. But who are we to say that their marriage is bad or what they're doing is bad or anything else like that? We don't know what people agree to behind closed doors. And I have a problem with people implying that you can't be good at your job because you want to sleep with women other than your wife. Because, like, that doesn't deal with adding, subtracting, that don't improve your reading, that doesn't make you a better business person. Maybe a little skeezy on your off time, but that's plenty of people. That's no different than people who have regular jobs and go home and smoke crack. Like, that's just what you go home and do. Like, it's not the best thing to do. But I just think that we have this whole thing about people only marry people they're in love with, people only marry this, people only marry that. But that's a very, very common, like, now interpretation of marriage. You used to get married because if you were a girl, you couldn't own anything. Because I wanted to bring this title into the family. I wanted to join these two countries together and I didn't want any more war. Because you didn't want to live on the streets and this was just the best thing that showed up. And I think we kind of need to go back somewhat to that because sometimes it's just a good business decision to marry this person. Remember, people said that about Jay-Z and Beyonce at first. Right. I don't know if they really like each other. I'm going to be honest. I don't care. But it was one of those things. Like, you're both at the top of your game. Who you going to marry?
That's fair.
Sound booth Billy? No.
You know, backup dancer?
You know? Like who are you going to marry that, I mean, their swag matches your swag and their fly matches your fly. And if you don't do that, you end up like Mary J. Blige, where this dude's trying to have you support his whole life and his parents' life and the rental properties and whatever else.
And his travel expenses.
Yes, because you were his come-up, as opposed to being two people of equal status, joining essentially two dynasties together. At some point, it just makes more sense.
That's fair. Okay, so hopping off of that, Kanye for 2020.
If he's old enough.
Yeah, that one. Even if he's old. But apparently, the HUD secretary, Ben Carson, came out with a new strategy this past week for improving, we'll say, the HUD process as far as low-income housing for Americans. I guess kind of the overarching view of it was that the way that the current system works, you recertify every year. 30% of your income at the time of recertification is counted towards your rent, and off you skip on until next year. But what he wants to do is increase that to 35% of a person's income, but only have them recertify every 3 years. The goal was to encourage more people to amass more income, because the current system kind of penalizes you for being successful. If you live in an area where, maybe $30,000 is enough to get by on, but not enough to live great, and you have 1, 2, or several children, that now this $30,000 is split between, this kind of buys you out of that situation, because now you can get promotions and bonuses or even a better paying job while still paying your same rate. I don't know. What do you think about this?
Well, there are a couple of problems I've always had with how income can be calculated for HUD. One of the old rules, and at least was a rule last time I checked, if you get a lump sum of money, the lump sum doesn't count towards your income. So, J.G. Wentworth does something for you, and you got 50 grand. That doesn't count. We never saw this.
Right.
And even when we worked in Maryland, we would see people who would have 100 grand in the bank, 150 grand in the bank. And it is, the amount that it is calculated as income is so minute that we're adding $4 onto their income or $7 onto their income. And I'm not saying because they had this, they should get out and spend it. What I am saying is you're not in need like this program was originally built for.
True.
And that's sort of the issue that I have. I think people also aren't keeping into account, this doesn't affect people over the age of 65. Okay. So any of your senior citizens that use HUD funds, you're done. And it doesn't affect a few other things. I don't remember all of them, but it's going to be a much smaller pool of people than people thought. And if he doesn't do this, I think another thing he should do is like in the state of North Carolina or in the city of Chicago, if we have a child and I'm on public assistance, you get the bill at the end of the year for part of it.
Right.
Because I guess the state or the city feels like, hey, you did that, let's do that. I think those are very good ideas. But what I don't think is quite fair about it is, so I can be on public assistance for 10 years.
Right.
Get off and get a good job. They'll never send me the bill. The bill only goes to you.
And
and off we go.
I
think we need to fix some of these holes.
I've voiced my concern about that a lot of times to a lot of different people, in the sense that a lot of the laws, the way that they are currently written, they are written towards women. They favor women.
Go us.
And I know that that's the thing that like a lot of men's rights activists get out and talk about, and I am by no means a men's rights activist. However, I can see the merit for both sides of this. I do feel like you have a lot of irresponsible men who are going out and having these children with women and not, taking care of the children, not necessarily the women, but at the same time, you have a lot of women who are getting assistance, be it directly from the person or through the court system, that aren't spending it on the children. So, I kind of feel like the whole process needs to be looked at and revamped, but that's, again, a states' rights issue. If you don't like the way that your state handles it, I would probably suggest moving to a different state.
I don't know that it's 100% state rights, because the only thing you can make is rules more stringent than HUD. You can't make them less. Well, so we put out the federal rule. You're welcome to tack whatever you want on here, but you need to at least hit this point, and then we move on. And
again, I'm talking about the overall rules.
That's fair.
I'm not limiting that part to HUD, but I do feel like this program, as long as it has some sort of backstop, because that was always my issue. I don't feel like anyone should be able to be on government-assisted housing for forever. Again, I think back to the Brookings Institute. If you do these 3 things, you have a 98% chance of not being permanently poor in America. And that is graduate from high school, get a job, don't have children till you're married. If you can do those 3 things, you will not be permanently poor in America by 98%. If you so happen to fall into that 2%, and let me just preface this by saying, no entire neighborhood is going to fall into this 2%. So should you so happen to fall into this 2%, I am deeply sorry and my heart goes out to you. However, for the other 98% of you, if you were to do those three things, you won't be permanently poor. So I don't feel like anybody in America should be on government assistance or, well, yeah, government assistance or government housing for their entire adult life. No, just no. And we saw that firsthand where you had generations of families who were on these programs. And it really just boiled down to Uncle Sam's taking care of it, so why should I bother? So I feel like as long as this revamp has some sort of backstop to it, i.e. if you haven't been fulfilling the terms of this program, or if you have been on this program for 10 years and there's been no change in your status, then you should probably be reevaluated to see if you should even be allowed to stay in the program. I realize that the plan isn't finished yet. Right now it's just a proposal, so I'm very interested to see what comes out in the final draft. But I would hope that this would be in there somewhere, or something to that effect.
That's true. I think one thing the McKinney, Texas Housing Authority does well, they have a person whose whole job it is to help families transition off of assistance. So I send you to resume writing classes. We get you a bit, like we teach you to push on past these things and, you know, do better. I also didn't like some of the people who were critiquing Ben Carson, saying he didn't care about poor people. You know, when he was running for president, I won't lie, the man sounds like the teacher from Peanuts. And it was really hard for me to focus. Like, I just, like, I'm sure what you're saying is great, but my brain shut off and my eyelids are drooping and it's about to be Sandman time. But when I looked into him, because I'm like, you know what, I should give people a fair shake.
Yeah.
He grew up ridiculously dirt poor.
On government housing.
Yes, with a mother who only had a 5th grade education. But this mother with this 5th grade education, all of her children graduated from college. You have the first surgeon to separate conjoined twins. Yep. You have a couple professors, a couple teachers. Like, none of your children were in your situation. And he was like, even though she couldn't read and write to the level of the homework that they were getting, like once she got past there, she was like, he said that she kind of snuggled. She's like, teach it to me, which is the best way to make you explain it to me and maybe you not to realize that I don't know. I don't know. But like, that was their thing. And here this woman didn't have the education, didn't have the backing, but she didn't rest on her laurels, and she never told them they couldn't be anything they wanted to be. Now, I don't know if he wanted to be the first person to separate some joint twins or the first African-American to do it or whatever, but I just think that's such a great story. And she was a single parent.
Right.
Working. And all of these children took that same ethic and put it forward. When you see Ben Carson and his wife, they're not overly flashy. You see them very basic cars, basic housing, basic this. But they are such a great American success story. They are what the Pilgrims and all the other people came here to be. The country where you can really be literally anything that you want to be. From El Jefe to the first Black president. Like, honestly.
That is true. That is true.
But I think people get caught up in that we're supposed to ensure everyone's success. And I was like, no. All we promise you is the pursuit of happiness. We never promise you will get there, that you'll see it, that you can touch it, taste it, feel it. But we said we hold these rights to be self-evident. All men are created equal, and you are free to pursue happiness.
Fair enough.
And I think we have to change that, because just because your kid can't go to some expensive private school in your area, it doesn't mean that like the government doesn't care about you, we've let you down, we've done anything. And I think people sometimes take those aspects to be like, oh, we need to do more for people because they want all around equality. But I'm like, you can't get that.
Right. And
I just think that sometimes we see success and we try to put a definition on it. And we actually need to step back at that point. What the actual mission of HUD is to not have homeless families. They didn't say you all were going to have a wolf range or this or that. That's what I'm just saying. Like, there's that. And I'm not saying by any means that they don't deserve this down there. There are actually several really good slumlord laws in the books.
True.
But I still feel like those people feel slighted. And I feel like every time that comes in, I'm going to hold up my picture of Ben Carson and I'm going to go, Did you hear the story that one time? Maybe I'll make it into like Conjunction Junction with a song. And I'll play it. Because it's just inspiring, I think. Even though it sounds boring. So read the book. Don't listen to speech.
And that's fair. That's fair. And again, I agree with you. The whole purpose was never to, build this housing for you to permanently move into. It was supposed to be to assist you for a brief period of time so that you could get back up on your feet or get yourself stable. Really, honestly, that is a big part of the reason why HUD has such the waiting list that it has for people to get on this housing, is because the people who are on it don't get off it. And you see that the most in a lot of states that have a very reformed public housing system, where they look for any reason to kick someone off the program. What? You were late with your rent 3 times? You're done. Like, what? Your son got a Dewey? You're done. Like, those states, they don't have a waiting list. Because anyone who gets on it knows, I need to be on the straight and narrow, or I need to hurry up and get the heck off this.
That's true.
And so, like, I kind of feel like those states are kind of, I don't want to say doing it right, but definitely doing it better. And I tip my hat to them.
Right. Especially with the VAWA increases, because that was one thing.
Violence against women.
Yes, sorry. I hate when people use acronyms. And like, I am now that person. Jesus. With that and a lot of things that were happening where people weren't being treated how they should be in the houses. You had elderly people who had children and grandchildren that are taking advantage of them. There have been some really good things they have put into play. I do think, though, we kind of need to get out of the way and let HUD do HUD. I also think that HUD should really look at condensing some of their rules. So every year, well, okay, there's like the original one, and they put the updates out, but it's like a 4590, a 4530. There's some names and a decimal and some more names. It's like 800 pages of HUD rules. Now, don't know about you. If I'm going to read an 800-page book, I better be the, winter is coming. There can only be one. Maybe the little ring makes me invisible. Like I want some subplot, maybe a nice scenery, maybe a jazzy ball or two. Not a bunch of HUD laws. And it doesn't read very, maybe J.K. Rowling could do an upgrade for them. I don't know. But I think you need to simplify some of those rules, because that's one of those things where, like, even if I want to get you off the program, I have to know all the steps and the processes and this and that to do that. True. How do I know you're violating it if no one can remember the 36,000 rules of things you're supposed to do?
And that's fair.
Bible has 10 commandments. I'm just saying.
Hey.
The Constitution has 19 amendments, 20, somewhere in there.
Yep.
I'm just saying, I think we can condense it down. And it's on that one really aged piece of paper up at Smithsonian. That's all I'm saying.
That's fair. That's fair. I guess I will kick it to you, madam, for holding court with the Duchess.
Which seems so improper to be doing in sweats and a t-shirt. Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge, gave birth to her 3rd child. And for the first time in history, although this child is born a boy, he will not supersede his sister in the line of succession. And, tell people like women's rights. I don't know how nobody was up with some confetti and some balloons and something else. Like this is exactly what you want. I mean, because Princess Anne got bumped for her, the youngest brother, and that I just think it's neat. It's like history. Kind of like people remember where they were when Barack Obama became the first African-American president. I think it's this very sort of modernization of the monarchy, letting the commoner in, the biracial Duchess and that. And I just think it's exciting. It's nice to know that some of the oldest monarchies in the world can be like, we got it wrong. I mean, some of their best queens have been queens. It's always been ironic to me that Henry VIII kept offing these wives' heads because they weren't giving him a son. And yet your daughter is one of the best queens in your history. And your son was sickly and he did not right for the 10 minutes he was king. So I've always been fascinated by that. So between her and Queen Victoria and even Queen Elizabeth now, it's about time you don't have to be the last option while they're trying to go down by the river to find out one cousin of yours 17 times removed to see if he can spell his name so he can be king because you happen to have boobs. So, snaps to the British monarchy. Side note, other thing. I know everybody gives Melania like a really, really hard time, but we need to have a moment of silence for the hat. Did you all see how salty the French First Lady was looking down at her in that suit? She was like Naomi Campbell, Cindy Crawford, the people from Zoolander, all of them. And like every shot, she was like, and I was like, yeah, I wouldn't stand there either. I'd be like, you know, I'm going to be at the room. I can't be in none of these pictures because she is just giving face. And everybody's like, oh, she didn't want to hold Trump's hand. I'm like, because she was in her zone. She was like, stand over there and let me be great. I mean, there was not one thing to be improved by this outfit. And everybody, even her biggest critics were like, that hat though. That hat though. So, snaps to you, First Lady. It is always great when we can show up the French, who we always say are in the first hat of fashion, I suppose. But perfection. Just another moment of silence. It was so great. Yes, for a hat.
Fair enough.
Tell me you didn't like the hat though. Tell me she was First Lady of the church Easter Sunday fly.
That is true. That is true.
Yes.
But.
And it was only $3,000 the whole get up. I mean, that's a lot of money. I'm not like I don't got no $3,000 outfit in my closet, but I'm saying.
But I mean, okay. The hat was fly. I cannot lie. But
you got beef with First Lady hats now? Like I was like, that was alright. You know, it was all white with a rim. Like, why is
just saying.
But sorry.
So as we gear up to go see Infinity War, I guess the most highly anticipated movie of ever.
I suppose. I thought that was Deadpool 2 for you.
No, not quite. Maybe Deadpool 1. But I guess, like, do you have any predictions on what's gonna happen?
So I don't have like a prediction, but you know, as you educate me on more of the comic book story, there are a few things that if it doesn't go this way, I will be disappointed. So originally in this story, Thanos is doing this because he's in love with Mistress Death. And like, even though like a lot of people have to die for this, I kind of feel like this makes you so much more of a sympathetic villain. Like, we get it. And I just feel like that's what we want now in our stories. We don't want heroes that are all good and all bad. That's why the Punisher does so well. And we don't want villains that are all good and all bad. Like, even though we know Loki is bad, tell me like that one time you weren't like, man, I would hate to be born second. I can't be king. I can't do this. I don't get the horse. I don't get the lightning. I don't get to be the god of hammers. Whatever it is. Like, it is normal human whatever to want to be first. And even though Loki done tried to kill his brother like 102 times and, you know, be putting on his fake glamour and taking over Asgard, secretly, we're like, we get it. You know, second kid. It's all right. So I think if you don't introduce this love story with Mistress Death, it's hard to give him the same amount of depth for me to feel bad. And even if, you know, he's doing it for this cosmic balance doesn't make me feel like you're great. It makes me feel like, who are you, Captain America out Indian Shield? Like, why do you get to decide what cosmic balance is? You're not a Celestial. Oh, you ain't write it. Like,
she is so salty in Captain America.
Not my fave. So not my fave at all. Except for Hydra Cap. Hydra Cap, you my homie. So it's just like, I just like it as a love story. Like, come on. Like, Magneto is one of my all-time favorite villains. But that is because all he wants is for mutants, you know, more to be in charge. But I think if he got some equality, he could be okay. Yeah. And that is such a relatable story.
It is. It is. And I mean, look, that is why I say what you will. I like comics. It is someone's ability to create this story based on their life experiences or something that they imagine that one day, whatever the case may be, and put pen to paper. And then another artist to come by, read what was written, and interpret the image of it. I feel like it is a great marriage of these two art forms that are oftentimes vastly underrated. And seeing a lot of these comics that I grew up with or grew up reading now on the big screen, some in good interpretations, And some in bad interpretation.
Look at you, Thor Dark Elves. I didn't sleep right for a week. Those
Yes.
things were creepy. And then they were all United Nations, creepy little elves.
Fair
It was
enough.
too much. It was just too much.
But to see that now on the big screen, and especially being as celebrated as it is very special to me because it is like this piece of my childhood that now is shared with the world.
Movies have been good, but can I remind everybody of Iron Man 3? Like, they aren't all winners.
That's fair.
And I happen to quite like, Robert Downey. Like, I just feel like we could go out and have a beer and it'd be bitching.
What if he's still drunk?
I don't like quitters. Whatever. You can whatever this
you
one.
can have a O'Doul's.
Whatever. Whatever we're gonna go out and do this one day. Maybe we're just gonna take the Audi and mess some stuff up and make Brody be saying it's a training exercise. I don't know. But like Iron Man 3, it just wasn't there for me.
And that's fair.
And Thor Ragnarok, like, you knocked that out the park. Like, that's the hit that gets you from the minor leagues called up to the majors. Like, they were like, yeah, that was